Welcome to the Sister City Movement Podcast with your host, Ken Dara. Ken Dara is a local Marin County-based real estate agent specializing in high-end residential real estate. You can reach Ken about any subject you hear on the show today at ken.dara at evrealestate.com. That's ken.dara at evrealestate.com.
Peace. It's amazing to have you in San Francisco.
Thank you for hosting me. I'm very excited to be here.
So I want to introduce Peace Nguyen. She's actually with Engel & Volkers in the Boston metro area. And I've been wanting to do this podcast for a long time. We're going to be talking about sister cities today. We're going to be talking about the Boston metro area and the San Francisco Bay Area, and just kind of talk about the similarities of both cities. And there is a lot of similarities with, and they are considered sister cities, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
They both live on different bodies of water, the Atlantic and the Pacific.
That's right.
And talk a little bit about Boston and why are you there? How long have you been living there?
I've been in Boston about 25 years now. I migrated to the city to follow a job.
Yeah.
And I worked in wealth management for over 20 years, and then I migrated over to real estate.
Great.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
And, similar. So I'm actually from the Boston area originally, lived there for quite a few years, and moved to Switzerland for about 2 or 3 years, and then moved to San Francisco, and I've been here for about 24 years now. So luckily for me, I know both areas really well. And I've always been in real estate. I haven't done wealth management or any of that. But what we've noticed, and it's funny you bring up wealth management, we have a lot of people coming from the hedge fund world, the private equity sector, from the Boston area moving to San Francisco via and kind of hanging out in Marin County, which we can get more into later. But
Sure, it makes sense. I mean, there's so many things that would attract a buyer to move to either city, right? Because of the education, healthcare, you name it, shopping, quality of life is really great. Access
Right.
to the outdoors even.
right. Well, some of the similarities with both cities is, Boston's really known for their biotech. Would you agree?
100%. That's probably our
And-
fastest growing field currently.
Amazing. And I think that's also happening in San Francisco as well. We have BioMarin in Marin. We've got Bayer here. We've got
Novartis here?
Novartis is here as well. We also have, and why am I spacing it now? I just said it. We have another one that's really big too, over on the South Bay. But yeah, biotech's really big here. Boston had a really big boom in banking recently. I think it's one of the biggest banking centers right now.
It's true. It's become the finance capital of the world.
Yeah.
People don't realize it.
No, but I didn't even know it. A buddy of mine just told me like 3 days ago, and that's how come I know. So it's kind of interesting what's happening with Boston. California's had its gold rush, right?
A few different times.
Yeah. So California's had its gold rush in the 1800s, right?
Yes.
And then it's had its gold rush during the dot-com
Era, correct.
and then it went into the tech era, and the latest is the AI era, right?
That's right,
And
100%.
And we, San Francisco is still coming back. I think Boston is back. I was there I was there this past summer, and it looks like it's just roaring ahead. San Francisco's getting there. I think it's going to take another year or two, but with the new mayor, I think things will be, progressing very quickly. So
Excellent.
we're excited. We're actually starting to see more people buy up or rent lease space, leasing out buildings and stuff. So I think San Francisco is definitely going in the right direction there.
That's great to hear. I think in both cities, our people are very resilient and adaptable to change. It's just getting used to what the new norms are.
Yeah, and you guys don't lack any universities either.
We don't. We're home to new universities like Harvard and MIT, Boston University. So it attracts a lot of wonderful clientele, and it's become a hub of innovation, very similar to here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and we don't have bad schools either. I mean, you've heard of Stanford, I'm sure,
Yes.
and Cal, you
Yes.
know. And I would say the UC system is actually quite amazing. And a lot of kids are taking advantage of that here.
Sure.
And one way they do that is they actually go to a community college, and then for 2 years, and then they apply into the UC system.
Well, lots of tips and tricks to learn.
There are lots of tips and tricks, so it's a lot of fun. What we could do is maybe let's talk a little bit about the outer areas of Boston. We know about the center of Boston, and my favorite area is the Back Bay.
Sure.
I don't think I can afford it now, but it's gotten kind of pricey between Back Bay and Beacon Hill.
Yes.
But where do you sell?
So I sell in Metro West Boston. It's about 15 minutes outside of the city. It is home of wonderful green space, so lots of hiking trails and nature. It's a great place to raise a family. So we attract a lot of urban owners who want more space. Perhaps they want to start a new family. They're looking for excellent school systems, which Massachusetts is known for, and you have access to many different options. In addition to Metro West, we also have what's called the North Shore and the South Shore, each with their own unique personalities. So on the North Shore, you have towns like Marblehead, Manchester by the Sea, Gloucester, Beverly, Salem, you name it, Newburyport even.
I was going to say, don't forget Newburyport.
It's a wonderful area, home to fishing history, sailing and yachting. You can even go whale watching off the coast. It's really an amazing place to be. South Shore, on the other hand, is a very laid-back coastal communities, if you can find one. And it's home to Plymouth, right, where kind of,
Plymouth Rock,
where
the Mayflower showed up.
exactly. So a lot of history and a lot of great places to live.
Yeah. So you basically, those are the bedroom communities for Boston.
Absolutely.
So what's the transportation like there?
So we have, inside the city, we have what's called the T, just like the subway, many different lines depending on which direction you're coming from. We also have the commuter rail, which is great if you are, one of those individuals who want to live a little bit further out, have a lot more space between you and your neighbor. Towns like Wellesley, Lincoln, you can take the train into either Cambridge or Boston.
Well, and we do it a little differently. So we do have trains in the South Shore. We do have the trains. On the North Shore, we actually have buses, but also we have a smart train that actually goes all the way up past Healdsburg that drops you off at the ferry. And so a lot of the people in Marin County actually use the ferry to get to the financial district and go to work there.
Well, that's very convenient. You avoid a lot of traffic that way.
You do, and you make a lot of ferry friends.
I have a question because I never heard about what a smart train is. What is that?
So basically, from what I understand, I've never ridden it yet, but from what I understand, it actually is, I think, electric, but it also has Wi-Fi built in, so you can actually be working on your computer when you're commuting from the north in Sonoma, Napa, and it goes all the way into Sonoma County and all the way down. So it stops in a little area called Larkspur Landing, and then you get off, and then you walk over to the ferry, and then you get on the ferry, and then you, with your ferry friends, and you go to the financial district. So
Wow, what an efficient use of time.
yeah, and we have three ferries in Marin. So one in Sausalito, one in Tiburon. And the word for Tiburon, Tiburon means shark in Spanish, and it would be said tiburon. That's the best you're getting out of my Spanish. But my wife has gotten several jobs through her ferry friends, going from Tiburon to the ferry building and just meeting people along the way. That's how she got her marketing director position at SF MoMA. That's how she got her job at Sephora. So it is a network. It's the social capital on those boats are insane. So it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Networking is so important.
So what's interesting, you did bring up, and I'm just going to touch upon the outer areas in San Francisco Bay Area. You start with San Francisco. Of course, they have buses running all over the place. They also have trains, basically it's called the BART, and then they have Caltrans, which is going down to the south. The BART goes east into the East Bay, which is a whole nother sector. And then we have Marin County. So starting from San Francisco, I would say Marin County is a lot like the North Shore of Boston, where you have Manchester by the Sea and Marblehead. What's kind of funny is Tiburon has a yacht club called the Corinthian Yacht Club, just for fun trivia. And so Tiburon has the Corinthian Yacht Club, and so does Marblehead,
Oh,
which
interesting.
is kind of interesting, right? And so they also both have one way in and one way out. So they're both peninsula kind of areas, and both are very beautiful. So why I like doing this podcast is because there's a lot of similarities of people moving back and forth. We were considered a feeder market to the Boston metro area,
Correct.
right? So I think what's really cool is Marin and the North Shore are very alike, like with having Gloucester. But then, even with Marin, you have a lot of similarities with, we've had a lot of people move from the Wellesley, Wayland, Weston, Sudbury, Lincoln, where you work. We have a lot of people moving into Tiburon, Belvedere, Ross, Kentfield, Larkspur, Mill Valley, which we call Southern Marin. We have a lot of people moving down from there. Or across to there, and so we do have a lot of cross pollination happening.
Absolutely.
And then we also have a South Shore as well. We have the peninsula, we call it Burlingame, Hillsborough, San Mateo County, and then you have Silicon Valley below that, where you have Meta, which is Facebook, and then you have Google, Apple, and the rest of them. And that's kind of where the tech sector is. That's where Stanford is. That's where all kind of the social capital is. Sorry, I'm hitting my mic now. And then we have the East Bay. A lot of the pharmaceutical or a lot of the biotechs are in the East Bay as well. So Genentech was the biotech I was trying to think of in the South Bay. And then we've got a few in the East Bay. So going up, and we wanted to talk a little bit about schools in the East Bay as well. You have Orinda, you've got Lafayette, you've got Walnut Creek, you've got Danville, you've got Livermore, Pleasanton, as well as Alamo, Blackhawk. All these places have great school districts in the East Bay. And what we're noticing is we're seeing a migration of people coming from the South Bay, from the Silicon Valley Peninsula area, and they're moving to the East Bay. And so that's where a lot of the business is coming from there.
Fun fact, about 10 years ago, my husband and I considered moving to the East Bay in what's known as La Marinda. It's those three communities
Yeah,
combined
it's Orinda
together.
and Lafayette. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great little area.
And the views from the Oakland Hills back into the city are beautiful.
It's gorgeous. The beautiful thing, I live in Tiburon, and I've got a great view of the bay. And the one thing I can say is every day that view looks different depending on the way the light's hitting the water. The other thing we have here that you don't have is that you do have is you have humidity. We don't have humidity here. We also have microclimates here.
What about bugs? Any
We
mosquitoes?
don't have any bugs or mosquitoes.
Oh, that's music to my ears.
Right? Thus, because we don't have humidity, we don't have the bugs in. We don't have nor'easters either, but we do have some crazy weather storms. So we do have the what do we call it again? I'm spacing it. We've had some crazy rain coming through, and we actually had an alarm a couple weeks ago for a tsunami. Wasn't anything, and then we do get earthquakes here, but I think you guys get more hurricanes than we do earthquakes.
What I love about the Bay Area, if I may, is within an hour or two, you have access to such different microclimates, as you say, right? So you head north to wine country. Yosemite is nearby, and you head south along the coastline. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, if you're coming from New England and you move here, you're like a kid in a candy store. When my wife was here before me, but when we were hanging out, we before kids, we had a hard time saying, where do we want to go to dinner tonight? It would be like Friday or Saturday. Should we go to Napa and have dinner? Because it's probably some of the best food in the world, right? and some of the best wine in the world. So we can go to Sonoma, we can go to Napa, or we can go to San Francisco for world-class dining.
Right. The food scene here is
The food scene here is
incredible.
insane. Also, one of the things I like here is that they actually have a kind of like a 50-mile radius rule, right? So where how they get their ingredients.
Oh, wow. Fresh.
So it's super fresh. We literally live, if you go down to near Carmel, Salinas, that's the breadbasket of America right there. So we have access to really good produce, and just the food quality I find is off the charts.
It's interesting, we're talking about the food scene. I think a lot of what influences that also is the diversity of the people, the different cultures. And in New England, we have, people coming from, immigrating from Europe, Irish, Italian. We have, Vietnamese,
Right.
many different ethnicities coming together.
And we have that here as well. We have a huge Asian influence here that has to do because of the Pacific. We've got what I call California Nouveau Cuisine, a lot of fusion, or just California American. The flavors that are here are just amazing.
Yeah,
'cause
they meld together
They
very
meld
well.
together, yeah. So there's a restaurant, and it's unfortunate the founder chef just passed away for a Slanted Door. He was kind of a icon.
One of my favorites, right?
Right, and it was a sad day when he left this earth. But the food scene here is great.
Yeah.
The weather is here. We pay the weather tax here.
Yes.
Because especially I'm noticing a lot of people from Silicon Valley are moving up to Marin County because they like the outdoor lifestyle. I would say the biggest sport that is done here is bicycling. So cycling is probably the biggest thing. Mountain biking was invented here on Mount Tam, which is in Mill Valley. We have, I would say, yoga. I mean, Pilates. I mean, there's a lot of new age stuff.
Right. A lot of focus on health and wellness.
Yes.
Same in Boston, right? We have yoga studios. We have, biking on trails. We have cross-country skiing. Because being in New England, we also have access to the mountains within, a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, but our skiing is better than yours. So because our snow stays where it's supposed to, it stays in Tahoe, right? And so we don't actually get snow here. We might see a little dusting on top of Mount Tam once in a while, but at the end of the day, there's great skiing up in Tahoe and cross country skiing as well. But I like the fact that the snow stays in the mountains, and we can just we have a pretty moderate temperature, especially our summer months are actually October. I would say September, October is our summer months here. But normally it's kind of, I would say, being in Marin, we usually stay at a pretty nice 68, 69 degrees. And then since there's no humidity, at 5 p.m., the temperature drops. And so my wife and I actually sleep with a duvet 365 days a year.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, so.
On my way, I was on the plane, and sitting next to me was a passenger who is what I would consider bi-coastal. So she once lived in the Bay Area, then moved to Cambridge, and she has adult children in both metropolitan cities. And she was going back to San Francisco to visit with her daughter and grandchildren. Now, we see that a lot, actually. Do you see that as well?
So funny you should bring it up. I did a panel at our conference, EVX, in Vegas last year. We were talking more about the silver tsunami, but yes, we're noticing that, and I've just done this, we're noticing a lot of empty nesters moving out to the Bay Area to be with their grandchildren. Not even their kids, just their grandchildren.
Right.
And I'm actually, my in-laws and my mother did that as well. And so my in-laws actually moved from Westport, Connecticut, which is another sister city to Tiburon, Belvedere. They moved out here. They live in Tiburon now because they knew the grandchildren were on the way. So they sold their place in Westport, Connecticut, and purchased in Tiburon. And they live far enough away but they're still close.
Right.
So, and I love them to death. I mean, I won the in-law lottery, but you know what? That's important to them, and so we're seeing a lot of that. The other thing we're seeing is that the kids who did really well in tech, usually, and we're talking about the silver tsunami that's coming, right?
Yeah.
When I was on that stage, everybody on the panel was talking about how the transfer of wealth is coming from the parents, not in the Bay Area. It's actually coming. The kids are buying homes for the parents and moving out here, which was kind of the opposite of what people were expecting. I've done about 3 or 4 deals where we bought homes
For the
for the
parents.
parents, and the kids were paying.
What a unique and nice position to be in to be able to do that.
I think they wanted babysitting.
Okay,
For-
there's
for
a
the
price to
kids.
pay.
I'm just joking, but it is happening. So we are seeing a lot of people coming from the Boston area, Chicago, New Jersey, Westchester County, Southern Connecticut. We're seeing a lot of DC area.
Migration.
We're seeing a lot of migration from the tri-state, Boston, Chicago, like as I just said, and DC, and they're coming out here.
Do you ever see migration going in the other direction from
I
Bay
do.
Area to East, right? With the aging population, you know, the
100%.
children are coming back to be closer to their parents.
Well, all my hedge fund guys moved to Miami and Austin because of taxes, right? So
Right.
a lot of my hedge fund guys that I've helped purchase properties here have left. And there's a lot of my daughter's friends when she was in school have also gone. A lot of them have gone back home to be with family because their parents are getting older. And so it's interesting that a lot of people decide, you know, the cost of living here is not cheap.
No.
I don't think it's cheap in Boston either, but it's you know, it's expensive to live here. That's why I joke about the weather tax, because when it's not raining, we are in a rainy season, which you're noticing today. But when it's not raining, the weather is amazing here, and that's why people like being here for the outdoor lifestyle.
Right, you do get a lot of that.
But yes, we're noticing that a lot of people are going back home to family, and that means they're going back to wherever they came from: Boston, Maryland, New Jersey, wherever their family is, because you know, family's aging out.
You
and they
talked about,
and they want to be there.
if I could ask you, the weather tax you alluded to. What's the current state of the market here in the Bay Area?
Current state of the market is there's not a lot of inventory, and I'm sure you don't have a lot of inventory either. There's a ton of buyers looking. I don't think interest rates are doing what we expected them to do this year. They went completely the opposite. Inflation has been increasing. I think you know, over the past 3 years, I think things have gone up 40%. Right? So the cost of living has increased. So I think it's harder for people to purchase. I would say normally in November, December, 45% of the sales were all cash.
Wow.
Okay, in Marin County, that I can tell you. But overall, I mean, people are still buying.
I think we're
There's a lot of money here, so
Right.
if the right property hits, and people will pounce.
that's a significant number of cash buyers.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, there are still a lot of buyers on the sidelines, and with interest rates predicted to hover around 6%, you know, this year, I think that will bring out more buyer opportunities.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
We're hoping they're 6%. Right now, they're a little over 7, aren't they?
They fluctuate, right, from day to day.
Yeah.
Similar is happening in the Boston area as well. I think it's going to be, once things stabilize a bit, a great year for buyers, more opportunities for them.
Right. Well, I think sellers are finally understanding
Yeah.
that they need to come down in price. I think prices have flattened. We're kind of going into a normalized market. So hopefully sellers will see that, and I think then buyers will always want to buy.
Right,
It's just that they all need to get on the same page.
correct. I don't see our prices coming down in the Boston area. They are still elevated, you know, not what we've seen in years since the pandemic, but they still remain high due to, you know, low inventory.
Right.
Not
And
a-
we have the same issue.
Yeah,
Some things fly off the market. Last week, we had something that sold for 53 disclosure packets out and 9 offers, and it was on for 1.8 and went for 2,650 in Mill Valley.
that's it, right?
And it was a teardown.
Oh, my goodness. But I think, having the right representation also makes a huge difference.
100%. And you're killing it because
Thank
you're the number one agent in Wayland, Massachusetts, I hear.
Certainly for the Engel & Wilkers firm.
Yeah.
Yes, having lived there for over a decade now, I've been able to network and establish relationships within the community and give back to the community, which I think is so important.
So why don't you give your information out?
Hi, everyone. My name is Peace Wynn. I'm with Engel & Wilkers Wellesley in Greater Boston. My phone number is area code 617-780-5411, and you can find me at peacewin.com. Thank you.
And my name is Ken Dara with Engel & Volker Sausalito here in the Bay Area. And my cell phone is 415-425-3626. And my email is ken.dara@evrealestate.com. And again, Engel & Volkers is a Hamburg-based company out of Germany that has offices throughout North America and all through Europe. I'm sure when you're visiting Europe, I'm sure you're seeing our shops all over the place. Have an amazing day, and thank you for watching the show.
Thank you for watching the Sister City Movement podcast. Your host, Ken Dara, can be reached at ken.dara@evrealestate.com. That's ken.dara@evrealestate.com. Join us again next time for another great guest and a great show. Thanks for being here. This podcast is a production of Madmana Studios in San Anselmo, California. All rights reserved to 2025. For more information about podcasting or podcasting opportunities, you can contact us at latham@madmanastudios.com. That's LATHAM @madmana, MADMANA studios.com.